You're watching ESPN First Take, presented by DirecTV.
It's so hard for us because we're here and we're going to miss him. And I'm not talking about as obviously as a player. I'm talking about as a person.
You know, Sean was a dear friend to all of us. You know, we're all like a family, and it's like we lost a family member. You know, and through this tragedy, you know, we all have to try to pull together and stay strong for each other. You know, our hearts and prayers go out to his family.
We really are so saddened by what's taken place, and we really will miss Sean.
I went to bed last night thinking that you know, the worst thing that we might have to deal with is an extended recovery and rehabilitation, and obviously, like everybody else, I was really saddened this morning to hear that that's not the case.
The shock of it right now is the hardest part, especially with maybe some encouraging words last night going to bed. To hear the news this morning is still really hard to handle.
You never know, and you know, we play this game football, but life is a lot more important than what we do.
You just never know anymore, you know, and it's more prevalent now. I heard he had a 18-month-old girl, baby girl. You know, it's a sad situation. Your heart goes out to his family.
I mean, it's real. So.
Thoughts there surrounding Sean Taylor and his passing yesterday. Here on First and 10, we're going to move on. More in Third Down. Our next topic involves college football and a serious issue that college football is facing. Ole Miss hires Houston Nutt right away, right after Nutt resigns from Arkansas. And then we saw that Texas A&M hires Mike Sherman right away. Both schools went and did this so quickly they didn't interview minority candidates. The Black Coaches Association is upset about this. Jalen, should they have been forced to interview African-American candidates?
The NCAA should be ashamed of itself. And the reason why I say this, I have no problem with the university hiring the best candidate for a job. Okay. No problem at all. I do have a problem with the fact that 55% of college football players are African American.
Correct.
Yet there are only 6 black head coaches out of the 119 jobs. That's a total travesty.
Shameful, and I agree with you, but here's the question. Should a college be forced to bring in black candidates when it quickly zeroes in on the man that it wants? In the case of Ole Miss, maybe a month ago, it decided, by golly, Houston Nutt's out at Arkansas, we want Houston Nutt. Should those said black assistant coaches or former head coaches then be brought in to be interviewed for a job that they have absolutely no chance of getting and potentially be humiliated in said interview? What do you think?
Not at all. I'm not for the dog and pony show. Just bring in the African American candidate just to say you interviewed one. I'm saying it's only 6 in college football.
I understand.
So that means, for the most part, something's wrong there.
Okay, I'm with you.
I want to see that addressed.
This is why the Rooney Rule works in the National Football League, because I'm all for the dog and pony shows, because if you force the NFL owner to bring in 1 or 2 young black coaches that I'm not aware of, and you're forcing the owner to sit down and get to know them a little bit, even if he's already decided on a white coach that he's going to hire, then I'm going to hear about him because he's going to be publicized, the black assistant. I'm going to do research on him. And the next time there's an opening, I'm going to throw out that young black assistant coach's name for the next job. And the next time the owner fires that white guy that he just hired 2 years from today, when he fires him, maybe he'll say, God, I really like that young black guy, and I'm going to bring him back for a real interview next time. It puts them on the map. That's why I'm not against even the dog and pony shows, because they help expedite hiring black coaches.
It's more than a dog and pony show now. I think that's part of what it's become, because it does get into the media. It's a great point.
The bottom line is the NCAA has to step in, step up, and do it right now and fast.
Absolutely.
They have no problem bringing in African American players. Do the same thing when it comes to leadership.
They need a Rooney-type rule.
Well, let's go back to the NFL, where the Rooney Rule does exist. Eli Manning back in the news. He was grilled about the media about the loss to the Vikings at his locker, asked a lot about the game itself, but even asked about why he didn't show more emotion at his news conference after what a lot of people said was the most embarrassing performance of his career, especially because his brother Peyton was there. This is what Eli said in response to that. The post-game press conference isn't the problem. It's what's happening on the field that needs to be corrected. I don't get to watch film on my post-game press conference. I guess I'll start doing that now. Should he be worried about his post-game press conference performance?
Not at all. The best coach in the NFL is who? Bill Belichick. And the thing that you hate about interviewing Bill Belichick is he gives you nothing.
Okay.
I don't want my quarterback necessarily to lead me through the media. I want my quarterback to lead me on 4th and 1 in the trenches. That's when Eli did have a horrible game. I wasn't a fan of his press conference, not at all. But at the end of the day,
why not?
I wasn't a fan because he's just not a great interview. Some players aren't great interviews. Sometimes guys get up there and they know what to say for the media to make themselves look good, etc. The bottom line is Eli's about winning football games. They didn't get it done. He took his humble pie. We'll see what happens next game.
When Bill Belichick talks, I know for a fact he is still in charge of his football team. And let me put it back in the quarterback context. Joe Montana, the greatest quarterback ever, was absolutely the worst post-game interview I ever encountered. But not because he came off as weak or unsure of himself or naive the way Eli constantly does, but because he gave us these terse non-answers, which actually built his mystique on the field because it was like we were beneath him. We shouldn't even dare to ask him any questions. He wasn't going to give us anything. He's above the media. With Eli, I'm a guy who pulls for him. I want him to do better. And with every interview that I watch, I lose more faith in these sleepy-eyed, aw shucks, naive answers that he gives me because I can't imagine that kid taking charge of a huddle or a team. I want to see a flash of anger over his performance or over the questions he is repeatedly asked, and I'm not sure there's a backbone in there. He needs to grow one, and I'm not sure he's capable of it.
But he doesn't care what you and I think. He only cares what the guys on the New York Giants think.
Okay, what do you think
and
they
behind
think?
closed doors.
If we're thinking this, what do they think?
We got to ask them and see.
Yeah, because
I didn't see nobody else come out from that team and light a fire through the media.
Okay.
Yes, only through the media do we make the quarterback the leader of the team. Yes, he takes the snap and he calls out commands in the huddle. But just like in basketball, the point guard is not necessarily the leader of the team. It's the same in football. Just because you're the quarterback, that doesn't make you necessarily the leader of the team.
It is the leadership position in football way more than even the point guard is to me in basketball, which is why I think Michael Strahan and the veterans on that team sit back and says, you know, my God, this is the guy who's going to call the plays for us in the huddle because he doesn't take charge.
And he did throw 3 interceptions for touchdowns. What do you expect the guy to get up there and say?
Be mad about it. Show me a spark.
Some emotion, something. We're going to have to leave it there, guys. Coming up in 4th down. Unfortunately, yesterday marked the passing also of the man who founded and started and created Gatorade. To honor him, we'll talk about those Gatorade baths after games. Overrated or underrated? Right now, we want to send it over to Amy Nelson for a little bit more of your take. Amy, what are people talking about?
Well, we're talking about Eli, and you know, Dana, my experience as a baseball writer is I talk to a lot of players, and some who don't have a great reputation with the media, but that doesn't necessarily mean that translates to their on-field success. And we have a couple different chatters writing in to say that they don't really like the way Eli has approached his post-game press